National champions and Pro Tour winners alike have fallen in our Goliath Gauntlet, leaving only 2 challengers standing. It's Tariq Patel up against Master of the Dawnblade Josh Lau for the Goliath Gauntlet crown. It's all on the line as our grand finals starts now.
Hey everybody, welcome to the finals here at the Goliath Gauntlet. I'm Tannon and joined by Uber. We are brought to you by FAB Cards and 983 Media. Uber, it has been a long trek to get here. You know, we've had a few things get in the way. We've had a ban announcement. Some players have had some opportunities to play each other live for the first time ever in the Goliath Gauntlet, but it all comes down to this. I don't think we could have asked for a better finals, and I know you've got a little bit of a rooting interest in this finals as well.
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, I am excited to see fantastic games. This is definitely going to be one of them. But you are right, of course. That a Dorinthia player has made it all the way to the finals of the Goliath Gauntlet is pretty incredible, considering what Josh Lau has had to go up against in order to get here. We're talking about a deck that is underrepresented at large events, typically doesn't convert, you know, nearly as well as like your big bads in the format. But in the hands of the right player, it can go all the way. And that's what we're waiting to see today, if that can happen for Josh Lau. Now, you remember last time we came on, we talked about Tariq, you know, playing Briar, obviously having switched off Oldham because we gave him the opportunity to change heroes. Well, initially it was changing decks, but then we allowed him to change heroes because that was kind of the footage that we had to work with. Now, for Josh, he built his deck going into the semi-finals, sort of predicated on going up against some sort of slower matchups here, and definitely expecting Oldham to be waiting for him at the other end. Because obviously Tariq ended up not playing Oldham at all, we allowed Josh to make changes to his deck coming into this game. Still open deck list for both players, but you know, Josh had a list that was teched pretty heavily for like slow matchups, and you know, he didn't know that Tariq would then ultimately switch to Briar, so he's able to make a change as well. But before we get there, I just want to thank everyone for joining us so far. Big shout out, of course, to FAB Cards and LSS for getting behind this second Goliath Gauntlet here. Of course, we're about to head headlong into the Outsiders meta. In fact, when this releases, we will be in Outsiders. But I want to treat this as you know, a fond farewell, of course, to you know, the Dynasty meta, and you know, we're going to see a lot of these decks sort of shaken out, and the meta shaken up drastically. But I don't know how many tournaments you'd expect to see Dorinthia versus Briar in the final. So this is a great opportunity to see how these decks line up. Let's talk about Tariq's deck list first. We did mention, of course, we talked about it in the Matt Rogers game here. And he's here on Briar. He's here to go fast, and he ain't going to stop unless a wall's going to get put in front of him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the theme of the entire matchup here in the finals, right? Is like each person's going to put the pedal down. You say you think it's going to be a race, and I've got to agree here. And I'm going to say one other thing. You know, you talked about how we allowed Tariq to change his hero here in the finals. Thank God he did. I'm going to say this is going to be a lot more entertaining, I think, for everybody at home, myself included. I'm a big Briar fan. So, you know what? I was thinking about this. I don't know the results of this match. I know you don't either. Do you want to put a little friendly wager on it? Because I know what side you want. I know what side I want.
Yeah, so I know who I want to win, but I also know what the data kind of indicates in this kind of matchup. It is pretty hard for Dorinthia to race Briar consistently. She can do it. It requires a little bit of serendipity in terms of hand texturing from the Briar player, maybe a brick hand here or there. My expectation is that Tariq will win, but I'll take a wager on Josh Lau because then I get the double whammy of, you know, having my hero win plus, you know, winning that wager there. So there you go.
A little bit of an upset.
Yeah, I'll get behind Josh.
Well, dinner the next time we see each other. Whoever picks up the tab, sure. We'll say, because at least you're not a coward, because that's what I was hearing there for a little while. But getting into the deck list, where we're taking a look at this, you know, we're talking about Tariq's Briar deck. This is more of a straightforward Briar deck than we saw in the hands of some of the other players that were in this. You know, Nathan Crawford's Briar deck was a cool little take on it. The thing that sticks out to me, and I know you're going to talk about some of these other cards, but I call this like the calling card of Tariq Patel in decks that have this card. He's got not the full rainbow snatches, but he's got red and yellow. This is something we've seen a lot from him over the last year, showing that like not just the red version of that card can be good, the yellow version of this one could be good as well. And we're seeing, you know, a decent bit of yellow in this deck too. There's Talisman of Warfare. Tariq, a player who likes to make fun of the yellow stripe in Flesh and Blood quite a bit, but utilizing some here today.
Yeah, and I think the Talisman of Warfare definitely comes in more as, you know, a key part of a key amount of disruption that Briar players can actually turn on pretty easily. Talisman of Warfare obviously allows you to destroy all cards and arsenals, plus the talisman itself. When any source you control does exactly 2 damage to a hero. So any deck with Rosetta Thorn can have access to this, and it can be really quite powerful against decks that really want to play off that arsenal when they can. The yellow snatch here it has some applications. Look, in many cases, I expect it might just be a pitch card. I don't know if it's terrible to pitch this into Sonata and get an extra flip off the top here. But it still represents a breakpoint when you have something like Amulet of Earth or a Fused Force of Nature. And obviously, when Channel Mountain Heroic's in play, it's still a very big attack and still looks pretty good with an embodiment of lightning here. And we mentioned triple evergreen package here. We're not going to see a fatigue game state at all between these 2 decks. We might see some conservative blocking at times, but I wouldn't sort of get too expectant to see that be a role player in this matchup. Also, 3 erase face in this deck for Tariq. That was something that was really nasty up against Matt Rogers. He sort of pointed one of those at Matt really early turns and forced a pretty heavy block from the dash, giving him all the tempo. Outside of that, very much a standard Briar list here. 3 Sink Below could be crucial in a matchup against Dorinthia. One of those out the arsenal at an unexpected time can really destroy Dorinthia's turn. I want to talk about Josh's deck, though, because if you're familiar with sort of looking over Dorinthia lists, which I've done too much over the last year or so.
Way too much.
Yeah, way too much. This list is very unique, and it definitely is tailored for this kind of matchup here, because we don't often see 8 Warriors Valor anymore. That is a big indicator that Josh does not expect his opponent to block. Alongside the 3 of Glistening Steelblade are going to be key role players here, Tannon, and 3 Steelblade Supremacy as well, to allow Dory to mimic a fraction of the Briar's power by being able to draw cards off those Dawnblade hits as well.
Is that like the meme, look what they have to do to do a fraction of our power? All right, I caught on. I'm usually not good with that stuff. You know me, I'm not into that kind of thing, but I kept up with that one. I understood that reference, so I'm happy that I got that one. Do you think you're going to see anything kind of wild from Josh here, since like you said, he is a little bit disadvantaged in this matchup? You say it's a little bit in the Briar side. Do you think there's any kind of strategy that he's going to implement to kind of maybe try to even things up or put more variance into the game?
You can. Look, I mean, there are definitely cards that lay it erase pretty well. Ironsong Pride here's in the sideboard for Josh, which is a card that can be really good in erase, but doesn't block at all. So if there's a key turn where Josh needs to be able to block and that Ironsong Pride is going up his hand, it's going to be pretty awful for him. Josh needs to be able to get go again every turn. If there is any turn where he cannot get go again, he's probably blocking heavily before it. So, you see him play off only a couple of cards. He has to be able to go wide here. That's why Sharpened Steel is in the list, a card that just kind of just pumps a card by 3, because he really needs to make sure he doesn't have any of these sort of dirtily little Dawnblade for 3 turns and then pass back there. He's just going to lose the game. Courage of Bladehold here. This is the kind of matchup where Dorinthia actually gets to use this Majestic Warrior chest piece here. Again, can get you a lot of value on like a triple hit turn. It can be worth 3 resources when you pop it, discounting your Dawnblade attacks by 1, but also allowing you to keep all your cards and not having to pitch any. If you have like a red heavy hand, you can sort of hit pretty hard. Stars really need to align for Josh in this matchup. He really needs to be able to draw some pretty impactful hands from the get-go, Tannon.
Yeah, I think the size of the Dawnblade early in the game is going to dictate quite a bit of stuff. But enough talking about the match. Let's be about the match. Let's head on down there and see who's going to be the Goliath Gauntlet champion.
The Goliath Gauntlet is brought to you by FAB Cards, where reality and fantasy meet. Go to kfabecards.com for all your Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and Flesh and Blood needs. FAB Cards. Be who you want to be.
So there you see Joshua Lau on the right, Tariq Patel on the left. And I've got to ask this, we saw this play out earlier in a matchup with Josh Lau. Do you think Embodiment of Earth is going to go a long way in being impactful in this matchup?
Yeah, it's so good. Here, I mean, allowing him to block for 4 is pretty massive. Again, blocking for 4, as good as it is, still turns on Reprise for Josh, so that still gives him the ability to go above those. But opening up with this Rounds on Me on turn 0 is pretty much ideal from the Briar player. A kind of card that really only sees its core use case occur here. Getting to reduce, again, both players drawing a card, but sort of reducing the power of each attack by 1 is very frustrating to deal with. So basically the perfect draw, I think, here for Tariq on this turn 0 also allows him to filter and see more cards and decide what his arsenal will be.
lots of blues in his opening hand here too. So like you said, getting through a lot of those. Well, let's see if he actually wants to follow this up with anything. Maybe there's a way he could turn on the Rosetta Thorn this turn and get some guaranteed damage, get some arcane through. And it does look like he's going to use these extra resources they had here. This is going to be an extra Sonata.
Yeah, so Josh can't prevent any of this arcane, which is important to point out. So he does not have any arcane barrier in this matchup at all. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty hefty hit off that Sonata Arcanix here. So it gives him that embodiment of lightning. Josh has to take 2. Can't do anything about arcane in this head-to-head here. So Tariq gets to top his hand up here, and he's working with a heck of a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Gets to add a, what is that? Was that a red snatch? I couldn't tell the color on that.
It was a yellow. Yeah.
Yellow. Well, we talked about this. Still going to be very good with embodiment of lightning here and some other stuff too, along with an enlightened strike behind that too. 2 of the signature attacks in this Briar deck just added to the hand here. So Tariq just chock full of a bunch of extra stuff here on turn 1. He's going to play a lot of cards here if he wants to.
And he probably doesn't, to be honest with you, but it doesn't matter because he's done 2 arcane damage and he's developed an embodiment of lightning already on turn 0. Now, if he wants to sort of turn this hand and attack Josh, that's fine. I mean, he might have enough attack actions here to leak even more damage. Again, if he has more than 12 damage in his hand, he can sort of go for it. It looks like that's going to be the plan here. So Nimbalism buffing up the next attack by 3.
Yeah, let's see which one of those attacks is going to be. That embodiment of lightning still looming here as well. I'm wondering if Tariq's still thinking about maybe just filtering cards for his hand, but no, it does look like we are going to get an attack from here. And this is that Enlightened Strike. Cards can go to the bottom. And I wonder if this is just one giant, tall Enlightened Strike here. I've got to believe that's what it is.
I suspect you're correct there, especially with the embodiment of lightning in play. I don't know if the draw trigger really means too much to Tariq at this stage. It does, in fact. He actually wants to see some more cards here. So this is going to be an 8 power Enlightened Strike coming in with Go Again. Allows Tariq to see another card. Presumably that is the yellow snatch in his hand alongside of it here. So wanting to give himself more of an opportunity to get a decent arsenal. And again, chipping Rosetta Thorn damage here is going to be excellent.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a triple block here from Mr. Lau, the warrior player himself. It looks like it's going to block out everything. And how does Tariq want to proceed from here? It does look like this is going to be a pitch into that Thorn. So another 2 physical and that 2 arcane that can't be blocked going to get through. You mentioned this, I took a look when that Sonata hit on the play. I looked over at Josh's stuff real quick. I was like, I do not see arcane barrier over here, and this is just free damage for him to get through.
This is about as good as it gets. Don't forget that this rounds on me was played at the start of this turn. So Josh's first turn is going to be shrunk, and he has to put his cards out in front here. He's just going to give the 3 block here to the physical component of the Rosetta Thorn and take another 2 arcane. So Tariq Patel gets to leak 4 damage and has a this rounds on me trigger active for Josh. Very, very good start to the game for Briar.
Yeah, no embodiment of Earth, but he kind of already has one, right? With this rounds on me, they kind of like do a good job of being very similar in the way that they affect the game. And let's see how Josh wants to start his first turn, because like you said, he's going to be stifled just a little bit here. He's going to start off with the Warrior's Valor. Here comes that dawnblade attack.
And again, the expectation is that Josh's opponent will not block. This Warrior's Valor is basically shrunk to a yellow Warrior's Valor, but the effect is still going to be important, right?
Now, when you say that they're not going to block, you mean they're not going to block from hand too much, right? Like we might see the equipment come out a little bit early in the matchup for the right attacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Naturally, those are going to get put in front here. Tariq doesn't have the extra block that you sort of get from creepers here. He's pretty much straight on the Snapdragon Scalers for this deck. He doesn't actually have the creepers in his list at all here. So this is proceeding about how we expect it to, right? Josh now says, okay, well, I get to attack again here. Finding a way to pump the second attack outside of Braveforge Braces is ideal if Josh can do it, but looks like he's just going to use the 1 floating in order to do that. And then pitch Singing Stillblade, which in this matchup is not nearly as powerful against Tariq. So he gets an extra 1 on that Dawnblade attack. He gets a 0.9 damage at his opponent here, if I'm not mistaken. Now, yeah, Singing Stillblade obviously requires a block, right? Otherwise, it's just you pay 1 to pump your attack by 1, which is relevant in some places when your opponent, it hits you with like a defense reaction. But yeah, Josh just having to make that adjustment there, -1 on the Dawnblade because of this rounds on me. So Tariq here says, right, how do I want to give my opponent a counter this early in the game? Can I really stop them from doing so? Josh is holding 1 card back in his hand here. The way that you evaluate your cards as Dorinthia changes drastically when your opponent is disinclined to block. So if he has an Iron Song response in hand, this might be one of the few spots he'd actually get use out of it here outside of a blocking card. So Josh waiting to see if Tariq will just ignore this.
Yeah, Tariq taking his time thinking about this block here, and you can understand why. That counter is pretty important, but the cards in his hand are pretty important too. We know that the card in his arsenal is the yellow snatch, if I remember right. I don't think he pitched it. So getting a turn together where that is as impactful as possible probably is going to cost you some cards. So you want to have as many as possible going into your turn. Start weighing all the options here. And usually when he's taking this long to think about it, he's not just thinking about this exact attack here. He's mapping out the next like 3 turns of the game and what the odds are and what the average thing that's going to happen here. So he'll probably play pretty fast after this play. I could really appreciate that from players of Tariq's level. Like the time they need to take a little extra time, I'm okay giving it to them because of how fast they play at every other stop in the game.
And Dorinthia players are pretty used to their opponents really thinking about how they block.
And here we go. This looks like we might be getting a double block from equipment already. This game has gone from 0 to 100 quickly here, Uber.
It's very aggressive from Tariq, but it's not a huge surprise. I mean, the fact that Tariq will block here and he will be 1 life behind Josh Lau after being the first player is actually pretty insane. So that chip of 4 damage on turn 0 really is very relevant. So okay, he says I'm taking it. So
yep,
Josh comes in for 3. Yeah, he's going to get what he came for, get the counter. And if that's a reprise card in Josh's hand, it's pretty dead here. It's going to have to get tucked into the arsenal. And we'll pass back here, and Tariq in a position to play off for 5 cards. You know, Dorinthia just cannot disrupt the opponent's hand at all unless she's using attack action cards, generics like Command and Conquer and such, where you can at least pressure the arsenal. But yeah, Tariq can play solitaire to a great degree in this matchup here, and it's going to be a fused Bramble Spark.
Yep, showing an Earthlore Surge. Another This Round's on Me getting put into the pitch zone, so there is a resource floating here. That Surge is going to go ahead and get played. Second embodiment of Lightning this game getting made right away, so this Snatch is going to have go again. So this is a pretty pumped up Snatch here.
Yeah,
I mean some pumped up kicks. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, Earthlore Surge is going to give +5. Bramble Spark going to give +3 on top of the Snatch there. So that's, I think, 11.
Yeah, that looks like 11 that Josh has got mapped on his side. I love this about Josh. He maps out everything for everybody, puts up the counters, because that helps us out so much at home here. So, yeah, it looks like there we go. Double ones. Little snake eyes. There we go. There's an 11. Thank you, Tariq.
All right. Yeah, Tariq demonstrating that you can actually represent this number with 2 dice and not 3. Josh deciding to do it for symmetry, very feng shui here with his dice layout.
It's very realistic with the heroes, right? Like the Briar player, generally a little bit more efficient. They only need like 2 cards, right? They attack action and the non-attack action. The Dorinthia players, they generally need like 3 cards, right? Like you need to pay for your attack, you need the attack, and then you need the thing to give it go again or the reprise trigger. So yeah, this is on theme. I'm liking this from the players. Looks like we got another big block possibly lined up from Josh Lau here. It looks like maybe just 2 cards, so this hit probably going to happen. Probably going to have a card draw on the way here. I mean, blocking for 11 here, Uber, just it doesn't feel great, but getting hit by this feels awful as well.
Yeah, and you can see how this yellow snatch sort of kind of makes sense in this scenario when there's so much pump here. So Josh is going to block often in this matchup. While we call it a race, Dorinthia can pressure damage while blocking aggressively here, but she really needs she needs Warrior's Valor or a way to start her turn with like a pump and a go again effect. So full block here on the snatch, really respecting this.
It looks like we're getting the fridge here. Yeah. We're getting everything. Is that 3 equipment pieces and 2 cards from hand for a full 11 block? And if you're Tariq, like, yeah, you don't get the hit out of this, you don't get the card draw, you don't get the embodiment of Earth, but I feel kind of good getting this many cards and all this equipment, right? This early in the game. Like, it's going to just make your turns after this a lot better, too. This is going to be a full 4 from the Rosetta Thorn going to come through to Josh Lau, too. So now Josh underneath Tariq in life total, 31 to 32. Going back over to Josh, he's got a card in arsenal and 2 cards in his hand.
So this begs the question, the card that Josh was holding back in the previous turn really needs to be a bit of a banger, because that's the one he tucked into his arsenal. He's going to have to use his arsenal a lot here because he's going to want to block pretty aggressively from his hand, and we'll try and play off 1 card in hand, 1 in arsenal here. Iron response, yeah, Doria has to pitch yellows because she has to play a billion of them. So that response, yeah, +1 dominate. Great to close out a game if you think your opponent's going to block. Here, Tariq wants to keep his cards anyway, so the dominate effect maybe not quite as impactful as just coming in for 4 here, that counter on the dawnblade, of course.
Now, Josh has been able to keep this game close, And there hasn't been an embodiment of Earth on Tariq's side of the board just yet, which can be impactful in this matchup. So there is that for Josh. But this looks like there's going to be a block for 4 from Tariq from the equipment. The crown and the graphs coming in. Going to get to filter a card here as well.
It's bullying. That's what it is. Yeah, this is where obviously Josh trying to maybe use this turn to find some tempo. Thankfully for Dorinthia players, there are more options now than just reprise attack actions. Alpha Blood says you deal +3, and then the reprise effect will give you pumps on your subsequent attacks. That means that Josh can play around something like this, an equipment block. He can chew through the equipment, he can keep the counter, and he can chip a little bit of damage, which is good. But again, when Josh has to block as liberally as he has been so far, his ability to have a wide turn to keep up in the race is severely limited. And you often find yourself in a position where now Josh is going to often give 3 cards to block on Tariq's turn, which means that he can only chip damage until he feels Briar player has stumbled. If they aren't able to sort of show a big turn, if they draw up a brick hand, that's when Dorinthia can actually do something. But right now, Tariq is absolutely the beatdown.
Yeah, and I like that timing there that Tariq found to get that double block in, right? Like this is a dawnblade with a counter on it. You get to use 2 of your equipment there, no cards from hand, when Josh only has a few cards left. Like he's only got 1 card left over in his hand. So it's an ideal spot to kind of like call there and see if you can get rid of the counter on the dawnblade. Here we go. We got a Bramble Spark into a Channel Mount Heroic, into a bunch of stuff, into a Coax of Commotion that's going to have go again. I'm trying to keep up here, but there's so much going on Tariq's side of the board.
So the Channel Mount Heroic is the fuse card for both Bramble Spark and Force of Nature here.
Right.
So that obviously means that, you know, we have an embodiment of lightning generated. There's arcane damage that comes in from the Bramble Spark because it's fused. And our Coax Commotion is pumped by 4. So a pretty hefty 8 with go again here. And of course, those on hits can be pretty impactful. I don't think Tariq wants to give Josh a Quicken token. That's like Dory's one of the heroes that uses that really efficiently.
Yeah, I don't want to give you free go again when you work so hard for it for yourself as a Dory player. So.
Like I will full block a swing big to get that.
Oh boy,
yeah, I will absolutely do that. It's because
I guess you do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's worth a full card for Dory, right? The most efficient way you get go again is with like a Glint the Quicksilver with reprise turned on, and that replaces itself. But most of Dory's cards, it's going to cost you a card to get go again. Maybe some upside with like, you know, a bit of a pump here or there, but they're also conditional that just getting a card that says you have go again is very nice. The Coax, though, is still obviously a concern. Tariq wants to fuel a bigger turn and choose that draw trigger and just keep putting the pressure down. You know there's a Channel Mount Heroic here in play. Josh is asking himself, well, to what degree can Tariq actually sort of deploy this Channel Mount Heroic now? Does he have like an Earth Blue in hand to sort of set this up? If he did, wouldn't he have done it already?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, is this some kind of bluff maybe from Tariq? You know, is the odds of there being another Earth Blue behind? I don't think it would be.
Well, I think he might choose a draw. He might choose a draw trigger off Coax to do it. The reason why he can't have an Earth Blue, right? Because he's played 4 cards. Or he's shown 4 cards at least.
Right.
So that means that like it's a slightly less efficient. Like you might even see Tariq like pitch to Rosetta with the Channel Mount Heroic. I don't know how much he values it personally. I'm not a Briar player myself, but this is like a 6 block put in front. So Josh is saying you're going to get your draw triggers. The draw trigger from Force of Nature is going to be the big one. If Tariq finds an Earth Blue, it's on.
Yeah, let's say possibly drawing multiple cards here, correct? Like he gets 1 from the Force of Nature, and then let's say I think I spoke too soon on that. Let's say what's he going to choose?
He can choose. Yeah, he can choose with Coax. There's like you know, obviously Coax allowing your opponent to draw a card. You really need to make sure that it's an asymmetric impact. Now, this round's on me being a symmetrical effect that has asymmetrical impact on turn 0, right? Because your opponent would draw up anyway. That's where you want to play it. Coax Commotion here, obviously, it's tough to like make it necessarily asymmetrical. Tariq risks getting punched in the face by that extra card that he might allow Josh to draw. But because there is Force of Nature in play, maybe there's a way that he can get himself another card and he can draw 2 cards to Josh's 1 and make it worth it. That's like the value proposition for Coax Commotion for Briar.
This is like the trolley proposition. Like it's like which way do you go? And generally when I'm on the Briar side, I opt for the more aggressive line, which is generally like, you know, draw the card. Like I agree with you. You don't want to give them the Quicken token here, but I think you go for broke. I think you go for
part of the trolley
plays.
proposition allows you to run the cart over the blonde damsel in armor strapped to the rails, because I think that's what Tariq's trying to do.
Yeah. Which lever do I push for that one? I want that lever. Yeah.
So I'm not gonna lie, Tariq is the conductor right now, and this locomotive is about to leave the station in a big way.
Yeah, so it looks like I think he might still be considering this. Maybe the players are talking something over. This is the thing that happens a little bit when we're playing over webcam. Sometimes they're talking something over. We can't hear it at home. So I think some decisions are being made from Tariq there, wondering how hard he wants to go in. Or maybe they're looking up a ruling on like if he gets to see the cards. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe he gets to see the card first, drawn off Force Danger before you decide on the hit trigger from Coax of Commotion.
In theory, yes. I think you would, right? You would stack the triggers.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the timing works on it. Maybe when it hits the trigger for draw hits, plus you have to choose for. You know what I mean?
God!
Is this a nimblism into a Swarming Gloomveil?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, with Coax, with Force of Nature still active,
yes,
mind you. So
this is going to be a full block. The 2 cards from hand plus the gloves are coming in, and then this is I was gonna say we've got the resource left over from the Spring Tunic that's going to push extra damage here from the Rosetta Thorn, and then this is what I love about Tariq. I do this as well with my opponents. Just put the card in face up in the arsenal. You know it's a Channel Mount Heroic. I know it's a Channel Mount Heroic. We'll be polite.
I guess that's a good point. Yeah, it's something that obviously Azalea players are very familiar with. But
is there a quiver in place somewhere? Like, what's going on? Am I about to get an arrow of a mountain shot at me?
I mean, Tariq's about to be the avalanche right now for Josh. It's another Bramble Spark turn, by the way, which is pretty nice. So that Bramble Spark gets fused here. We throw the CMH in with the blue pitch. Everything's lining up perfectly for Tariq here.
Yeah, this is looking really, really rough for Josh here. These last couple turns with Tariq have been so good. Yet another embodiment of lightning token. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody make this many embodiment of lightning tokens in their Briar deck. And you were talking about this going into the match. If the hands line up for Tariq, it's going to be hard for Josh. And these hands have been pretty good for Tariq. We haven't seen any of the, the all attacks or all non-attack hands from him yet. And this is a massive, massive snatch coming in toward Josh. Yep, this is a 8 power snatch here with Go again.
It's about as good as you can ask for, right? I don't know how it could be much better.
Hey, the arcane damage gets through. Yeah.
Yeah, this snatch is pretty insane. So again, for Josh, like we talked about how Tariq draws his hands up. Josh might be drawing great hands right now, but they have to be put in front of this stuff.
He doesn't have a chance to use them, right? He's just being forced to block with everything. Yes.
Yeah. And that's just the tempo game in Flesh and Blood. It's got a lot to do with Tariq being the first player, but but being able to force some damage here and actually have that sort of lead plus turn around and have some fairly big turns. Now, Channel Mount Heroic, this is we have to full block here. There's just no reason not to.
Yeah, I was gonna say the equipment has been whittled down, so that leaves you with pretty much choices of just the cards in my hand. And Josh is willing to give out a ton of those, and I mean all of them, to stop this snatch.
Is that actually 8 damage? This looks like what? Bramble, Channel, and Snatch, right? So you're getting pumped by 6. Am I crazy?
Yeah, he has 8 down. Maybe it was a different number, but
I think he just left his dice there. That was a 10 snatch, man.
Yeah, I think he did quad block it. So
yeah.
So it looks like it's going to be for the second turn in a row. Josh is going to draw up and pass. Still has that card in his arsenal, but he's still got those 4 cards in his hand. The problem is he hasn't been able to get anything going here these last couple turns. Tariq still has that Channel Mount Heroic in play here too. So the pressure is not going to let up this turn.
No, that's right. In fact, it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse than the last turn was here for Josh. Josh only
doesn't have to develop. Yeah, he doesn't have to develop the Channel Mount Heroic. It's already there. So now he gets the full 5-card hand of this channel. And yeah, it might not be around after this turn, but your life total might not be around after this turn either.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously on any turn that starts like this, there's the potential for Briar to go quasi-infinite, right? At least in terms of the 40 life that Classic Constructed offers you here. So we have a blue going to pitch here, that Tome of Harvest. So again, Tariq hoping to draw a lot of gas this turn primarily. Blue Sotomorrow. So he's not exactly dealing with the creme de la creme as far as his deck is concerned, but Sotomorrow obviously is going to allow him to take some stuff out of his graveyard. He's going to take a target Earth or Elemental action card will cost 2 or greater from his graveyard to the bottom of his deck. So yeah, Bramble Spark, I guess, is the.
Does it look like
it can select that? No.
Well, maybe not. Yeah, you might be switching.
Cost 2 or greater, I think it is.
He is going to draw an extra card here as well.
Yeah.
He's going to draw a card off of the Sotomorrow since it's from his arsenal. There we go. Earthlord.
That's a legal target. Yes.
Yeah. So there's the draw. Yep.
Half an embodiment of lightning there as well.
Good point. He's been very good at making those so far this game and getting the maximum value out of them.
Yeah, I'm going to start calling him Tariq Two Belts Tesla after the infamous inventor that managed to cause earthquakes and created the coil. Obviously, that was his namesake. Here's the rune chant created here. So getting some value out of this this blue. Tariq, okay, Amulet of Earth going to be added to the board here. So number of blue cards being drawn, but obviously if there's an Earth fuse that happens this turn, you can pop that and get +1. You can actually get +1 on defense, which is kind of nice. That's like a little underrated part of Amulet of Earth that not everyone sort of can recall. But you have to Earth fuse in order to do this. And Sotomoro doesn't require a fusion, so that condition hasn't been met yet. But hey, another half of an embodiment of lightning.
If you're Josh here, are you like holding your breath in hopes that maybe this turn's not going to be as bad as you think it is?
I'm door dashing lunch.
Okay, sure. So yeah, okay.
It's been a very rough start to the game. You can get back from this position, make no mistake about it. But you're priced into blocking pretty heavily for the near future.
Absolutely. So the rune chant pops, arcane damage goes through. Josh is down to 22. This is a big Coax of Commotion coming through here too. This is for 7 right now. Plus the looming Amulet of Earth is there if ever one of these on hits just needs to happen for Tariq.
Yeah, I mean, again, this being a break point with Go Again is pretty frustrating because Josh knows this turn is going to be fairly wide. He doesn't want to have to give more than 2 cards to this block. Now, Tariq previously declined the on hits from Coax of Commotion. He might do the same here. But Josh is saying, well, I'm giving my opponent an embodiment of Earth again. So when I pick myself up and climb out of the trash compactor, if I climb out of the trash compactor, then I'm going to be having to deal with a more sturdy opponent than they otherwise would have been here. But the calculus that helps you decide between blocking 2 or 3 here in order to deal with in order to not have to deal with the embodiment of Earth is pretty straightforward. I feel like Josh, has to just give up 2 and keep some cards to block what's coming after it because these are the batten down the hatches turns.
Yeah, so like I think you could see him making that same kind of mental idea that you have. Like he's like, yeah, I have to give up 2 cards here, but you can see he's like, man, I don't really want to because like he hasn't been able to really mount anything this game, and this is going to be 2 cards plus the crown here. That's going to full block. Looks like no crown trigger.
Oh, he's put another bloody Earth card in his pitch zone, Tannon.
Oh no, that Channel Mountain Oak is going to stick around here, Uber. The Rosetta Thorn's going to get through for a little bit more damage. Josh down to 18, Tariq still at 29. However, if there's any silver lining here, I know it sucks that the Channel Mountain Oak's there's going to be another Arsenal going to be facing a 5 grenade. At least Josh has cards in his hand this turn for the first time. It feels like forever.
Yeah, he drew 3 blues, so definitely a blocking turn anyway. So this tells me that Josh is going to use his Refraction Bolters this turn, most likely. Pitching, obviously, his Go Again card, the best one that his deck has here. This is all very expensive to do. Steelblade Supremacy gives him +2 on this attack. Dawnblade is going to be able to come in for 5. Threaten a draw. Like I said, Josh attempting to mimic a fraction of Tariq's power here.
Yep, Dawnblade coming in for 5. Target 29. You know, he's going to at least take his time and think about it, right? Like there's a chance he could just shrug this off, just take it, maybe order some DoorDash himself. We're talking about the
player that went to 1 life against Ethan Van Sant in the previous Goliath Gauntlet. You know, in a deck that is well known to have Reckless Swing, like multiple copies of it. So Tariq is no coward.
But Uber, by the way, I didn't know that card existed until I died to it. That's one of those ones like when you make those, you know, the joke about like I'll never make that mistake again. Yeah, that'll never happen to me again. It's the same way with like when the first time you get shunted for lethal, like when you go down to 1 and that one happens, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you take 1. And it's like, yeah, this will just never happen again.
Love that. Yeah.
Never let myself get to that point again if I can avoid it. And sometimes you just have to, though.
But again, for Tariq, kind of knowing what this turn could look like for Josh is much harder to anticipate. A lot really hinges on what comes off the top of the deck here. So I think what's a big tell for me is that Josh doesn't activate Courage Blade Hold this turn. It says that he's probably not looking for a triple hit turn. It's the only thing that maybe makes me think that he's not going to use those braces. You really want to pop Courage on like a 3-hit turn, and rare as they are, that's where you get like your 3 resources of value from that, making it better than a Tunic in a short game. So we are talking about Dorinthia allowing Josh to attack again, which is all well and good, but we still need a source of Go Again. So here's the draw. Now you can actually stack the triggers such that you can see what you drew and then pop your Refraction Bolters, so you can decide based on what you've seen. And it will be a Bolters pop here for Josh. So 2 cards in hand, he's going to be attacking again.
Looks like he's going to go ahead and activate that other piece of equipment as well after this attack for 5 gets through. Tariq down to 24. So Josh, trying to make a game of it here.
Yeah. Now coming in for 6, +1 from Braveforge, +2 from the Steelblade Supremacy. Best case for Josh here, it's like a pump in hand, right? Wants to be able to pump here.
He's got 2 resources floating, got a card in hand, so Josh Lau found that you're not out of it just yet. It is. It looks like a red out for blood. So this is an extra 3.
That is really nice. Yeah, being able to put 9 damage across the table here with that attack and draw a card, so still have an arsenal, which means that if there is another blocking turn coming up for Josh, hey, have extra access to that extra card and can sort of make use of it out of the pocket here. The counter has been returned to Dawnblade there as well. But bear in mind, if there's any turn that Josh has to full block and can't pay for attacking with his Dawnblade, lose a counter there as well. So this is very good. This is what you're looking for. A pump there was, I can't believe I'm like treating Alpha Blood like one of the most important cards of this matchup. But in terms of like the life race, it is fairly crucial. There's another turn of CMH for Tariq Patel though, and Josh is going to need to stay wise to just exactly how freaky Briar can get with that card.
Yeah, with Dorinthia fans and Warrior fans, hold on to your butts. This game got a little closer, but you're not through it just yet. You still got to go up the mountain one more time, at least from Tariq here. I doubt that we're going to see the third counter get paid for. We almost never see that, but I've got to believe that Tariq's just going to throw the whole freaking kitchen at him at this turn.
Yeah. I mean, when your opponent is at 15 and you have a good hand of cards and courage on the board, sometimes there's the question of just not blocking. Against the Briar, which is pretty scary. Okay, 2 attacks, 3 attacks. That is
that's a whiff.
I guess what, grade A? Kobe beef coming off the top there?
For Josh, definitely.
Yeah.
For Tariq, that's some sour milk. That food is bad.
Yeah. No arcane damage, no extra cards. Tariq's still operating on a Channel Mount heroic turn, but the maximum size of his turn has definitely become shrunk. So what we're rolling a dice here. Tariq, I just deciding how Tariq cuts his deck. I see.
Sure.
I see.
Yeah. Just some randomization. There you go. So Sonata does practically nothing this turn. It is half of embodiment of lightning, as you like to call it. From the arsenal, here we go. We got a Scar for Scar.
Oh, Scar for Scar's turned on Tannon. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so this is an attack for 7 with Go again for the low price of 3 Uber.
No,
you can't get any kind of Ubers for free anymore. Uber Eats,
no,
the OG Ubers, nothing like that. No. You got to pay for this usually.
You can't get me on the Goliath Gauntlet though.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Hey, you actually, it was actually more than free the first time.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's right. Hey, I don't mind paying to cast if it's a good time like this. Don't you worry. Josh is taking it. See what I said? Josh wants to try and kill Tariq. He thinks he might be able to like have a nice turn with a Courage of Blade Hold, but it really depends what the rest of this turn looks like. So Earthall Surge, it's blue, right? So it's only pumping by that 3 only, I say. It does cost 2, so fairly expensive here. But Tariq gets an embodiment of lightning.
Mm-hmm. Got that embodiment, and this is a red snatch that's going to be what 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is this another 10 power snatch?
Yeah. Josh has to block now because there's a Rosetta Thorn off the Tunic counter being threatened here.
Yeah, you wanted to keep your whole hand here, right, as Josh, but now that choice has been taken away from you.
The blowout scenarios here, I imagine Josh, if he doesn't this 10 damage. If Josh doesn't full block, the worst case scenario is Tariq draws a 0-cost attack action off the top, can play that, and then Rosetta. Like a...
one that actually has Go again as well.
Like
it's
swarming, like a swarming, right? Like
yes, swarming would be exactly it. Yeah, I was supposed to say. I'm looking through the list. I don't know. There's any that other have
you
natural.
Could get like a Ravenous Rabble.
Ravenous Rabble.
I think a red could be good too.
There's a few. Yeah, there's a few.
But Josh is basically saying his opponent is at 15 and he has a Dawnblade counter. I mean, he can make Tariq block. I guess that's the best he can hope for. He can't kill the guy.
And the thing is he can't shrug this off either. Like, he has to block at least some amount of damage to this because of the Rosetta behind this. He has no way. He can't go to 2.
That's right. Yeah, you're exactly right. That arcane damage will heal him.
So there's no like half measures here for Josh as well, it seems.
Yeah, and for Dorinthia, she really wants to have like an ideal turn to use Courage of. Yeah, you got to give it up. Yeah, it's brutal. So, Courage of Blade Hold has Temper, which means that actually the second time you block with it, you lose it. It's not a battle-worn piece of equipment. So, Josh has given up his free Dawnblade turn to stop that snatch, which is a very patient, conservative line. It allows him to keep 1 card in Arsenal here. it means that, if this is like a Warrior's Valor, there's like an acceptable turn here for Josh, but still probably nothing that tempts Tariq into blocking.
Yeah, and Tariq still got to keep that counter on his tunic as well, and that can loom large here because that means that Tariq doesn't have to pitch one of the cards in his hand for resources, and then might be able to get him through if he can get through almost any extra damage on his next attack, it might be good enough to kill with the Rosetta Thorn backup here.
So glistening is very powerful here, Tannon. It's a little late to see this card, but it is the kind of card that makes Tariq consider blocking.
So you can see why this is the card that Josh wanted to save over for this turn. One of the ones that he was trying to keep dearly in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, giving your next Dawnblade attack go again, but also saying every time Dawnblade hits, you get a counter, as opposed to just if you hit twice. So that means first attack is good for 1 counter. The second attack is good for 2 counters, taking that Dawnblade up to 7 power. That means that Tariq if Tariq doesn't block here, which is fine, you cannot block here. Tariq must kill Josh on the next turn. Otherwise, he's dead.
He's not going to be able to handle that big of a Dawnblade, yeah.
Yeah, we are at the, I know in life and for many things, Tannon size doesn't matter. For Dawnblade, it sure as hell does. And Tariq has to be, Tariq's a doctor. He knows his way around this stuff. He knows he needs to respect it to some degree. So remember, there's embodiment of Earth up here, so this could just end Josh's turn right now.
I'm just going to let that statement lie for a little while. I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole.
Mm-hmm. Again, I just told you, size doesn't matter. It could be a 5-foot pole, Tannon. That's also fine. But this is a 4 block.
That's perfectly average, Uber. Yeah, yep. Little 4 block here from the hand.
And that is enough to do it. Again, Josh doesn't have a card to pump this attack. The embodiment of Earth got him there. The one card that Josh was probably really wanting to not see ever, that embodiment, it gutted him in that turn. And this Earthlaw Surge promises to make this a very tall lightning surge.
Yeah, and this one doesn't have Gogan, but those boots are just sitting there, the Snapdragon Scalers, waiting to happen here if Josh were to be able to block through this. So this turn's going to keep going. This looks like a triple block from Josh. No CMH this turn, but Earthlore Surge doing a very good impression of it here on that Lightning Surge. It looks like it's going to be, I think that's a full block, right?
It's 3, 6.
Yeah, it's a full block. So, yeah,
coming in here. And now, I don't think snaps to Rosetta is a very good line. I think a lot of players really, when they play Briar, hope to turn those Snapdragon Scalers into more than 4 damage, to really sort of keep a turn going. With Josh being able to prevent any of that arcane damage, Tariq might be more than happy to chip this thing here.
I think that's where he's thinking about this is it gets Josh down to 3. And if I get him to 3, that means he can't take any damage ever for the rest of the game because any Rosetta Thorn after that is lethal. I think that's what's going to make the doctor make this call.
Yep. And so he does. 2 and 2 for the Rosetta Thorn. And Josh probably thinking, along the lines of what you just said, I probably have to give up my last card here. But if I do that, I probably just lose the game on the spot. I mean, I don't
he's not happy.
I have no mechanism anymore to threaten my opponent. Yeah, okay, take it. Josh is saying, I have to keep this
the
card.
arsenal.
Yeah. Okay. Look, fair enough. I think you're playing to win here, right? Instead of to not lose. So I appreciate it.
Here's another automatic win for Tariq as well here. If he has any way to activate the Grasp of the Arknight, play a non-attack and an attack action. Like if you can activate Grasp and the Rosetta Thorn in this turn, no matter what Josh has, he will die this turn.
It's pretty expensive to do that.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's asking a lot. Yeah.
It costs you 3 cards in order to do so. So
that's where we're starting though. Yep.
Runechant.
This is almost the exact way Tariq won his national championship as well, too. He was able to chip through enough damage to make the Grasp of the Arknight lethal on the last turn. Swarming Gloomveil behind this, and this is going to see the Runechant, so this is going to have go again. So if there's a non-attack action, this is lethal automatically, but I mean, there's 2 cards left in Tariq's hand as well that are scary. So, and Josh has to give up some blocks here.
Yeah, I want to point out that, if Josh were to, Josh can't allow this to hit, right? So, we're going to put the rad in front here. This will cover it. Unless there's an instant speed way to make an aura. No, there isn't because Tariq isn't playing. Get that out of here. That is absolutely filthy. Loss of Nature, Swarming Gloomveil. Also, a pretty tidy little combo considering that, Swarming Gloomveil can get above its base just sort of off its own back. If you've sort of played or created 2 or more auras, right? That gives it gives it an increase over that base damage. But there it is. Rosetta Thorn's going to finish the game. Josh trying to block as much as he can, but time of death has been called by the Doctor. And Tariq Patel is your Goliath Gauntlet 2 champion.
So impressive. Congratulations, Tariq, for being your champion. I do want to point out one thing here, though. I think the most impressive thing to me in all of Goliath Gauntlet 2 was Josh Lau's run through the Goliath Gauntlet here. And nothing about Josh Lau. He's obviously an amazing player. We've seen him play out of his mind this entire tournament, but doing it with Dorinthia, the deck that he is absolutely known for, and, sticking to his guns and really giving warrior players, a reason to smile and be like, yeah, I'm a warrior player. I like Dorinthia. I like this kind of style. And, you as well. I know you're a big fan as well. So props to the run by Josh Lau in his second place finish here as well at the Goliath Gauntlet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Josh has to deal with multiple Icelanders here, which is, pretty tough for Dorinthia. I feel like he got to showcase a lot of what makes Dory great and what makes her a ton of fun as well through those matchups. A lot of really tough decision points to navigate there. And going up against Tariq Patel, that's a big deal. Josh knew exactly what kind of opponent he'd be up against there. And I think, that result speaks more to me of the power of Briar right now and how she's gotten so close to, being living legend over maybe the weakness of Dorinthia, because we've seen Josh pilot her through a lot of very difficult situations. But, we had an option, right? We sort of forced Tariq to stay on Oldhim and force him to play Fatigue Oldhim for his semis and final match.
We'd still be not even halfway through the game, by the way.
Yeah, or we poll the players, we see if they're okay with the change up, and they all were, and allow him to go back to the Briar that brought him so much fame, and he gave us an incredible run as well. I mean, Tariq takes on Dan Rakowski in the first round, right? Manages to win that out on Oldhim. Then he goes up against Mara Faris, a really decorated Dromai player, gets a win there. Then Matt Rogers, then Josh Lau. So the road for Tariq has been nothing less than grueling as well. He's an absolute champion, of course, of the Flesh and Blood game, and a really deserving recipient here, of course, of the lion's share of our $3,000 prize pool, but also the coveted, the vaunted, the signature gold foil Goliath Gauntlet, from Legend Story Studios. So we're definitely going to get that one over to him, of course, in the Goliath Gauntlet champion playmat. I gotta give everyone a shout out, all of our competitors here. It's been great to run this back a second time, and I think we really got to see some of the best moments or some of the best decks of the Dynasty meta represented here. So I'm pleased this punch, mate. It's been a great run.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't think we could have asked for just better from the players. I think it's funny, I said this about a year and a half ago when we did the calling in Indianapolis at one of the SCG cons, and I said that from here on out, every time you play in a Flesh and Blood tournament, it's probably going to be the hardest Flesh and Blood tournament you've ever played in. The players have taken it upon themselves to become better and to raise their level of the game, and everyone brings it. We've had Michael Hamilton in this twice, and I can't tell you the last two tournaments Michael Hamilton played in and didn't win besides the Goliath Gauntlet. So that tells you the level of play that these players are bringing here in this tournament. And again, just utter mastery from all the players. I was floored of how well this was played. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up 983 Media and how well they've produced this from the start. We've had a hiccup here or two. We've had some stuff get in the way, and they just roll with the punches every time and keep putting out a great product.
Yeah, and obviously a huge thank you to KFAB Cards, because that prize pool comes from them. They are the thrust. They are the main sort of driving force behind getting these prizes out to players and giving them a real reason to put their very best out there on the table. So I want to thank, obviously, Job and all the crowd there at KFAB Cards for their involvement, without who we wouldn't be able to make this happen at all. So big shout out to them. And to you guys as well. Thanks for joining us so far along the road here in this Goliath Gauntlet. Thanks for all of your comments, criticism, thoughts, and for just joining us here. Your viewership means a lot to us. We hope we've been able to add some value here to the Flesh and Blood content space, and hope to do more in the future. But for now, we're all done here with the Goliath Gauntlet number 2. We're signing off. We'll see you out there in the Flesh and Blood. Take care.